Football. What are the reasons for the failure of young football players? Examine 6 essential aspects of this topic. 1. The family. 2. The merit. 3. The social networks. 4. The impatience. 5. The environment. 6. The coaches. Considering the aspects mentioned, we begin this reflection with the family. In this context, there are 4 aspects to reflect on: the illusion, the influence, the reality, the environment. The illusion. Young players grow up under family strategies that excessively promote self-esteem and self-image, encouraging that they can achieve anything in life because they are exceptional. Added to this are the false prophets of the future, several scouts. Whether they like it or not, young people cannot be everything they want to be. Admitting this fact is devastating. The influence. Some young players join great clubs not because they deserve it but to benefit from the influence on who decides, instead of understanding the importance of adjusting the young capabilities in line with other demands and conditions instead of representing better-known clubs. One of the characteristics of the personality of young players is their capacity to face the truth, which they can tolerate and accept. The reality. When young players reach adolescence or adulthood and enter the real world, they probably discover they are not as skilled or unique as the people mentioned. Family members cannot help them access subsequent training stages or professionalism. What will happen is that his self-image will be deconstructed and rebuilt based on a new reality at each stage of his life. The environment. Young players evolve more quickly when they take advantage of favorable and compatible conditions and environments, interacting with demands specific to their abilities. There is no advantage when a young player hides their vulnerabilities. Therefore, instead of hiding them, it is crucial to expose such vulnerabilities and work to overcome them during the training process. The second element is merit. In this context, there are 4 elements to consider: the devaluation, the winning or losing, the simplisms, the organization. The devaluation. False notions of some young players' capacities come from federations, associations, clubs and private tournaments awarding medals to everyone, regardless of whether they are last or first. In this way, they guarantee merit to everyone, even those who do not deserve it. The medal and the reward are devalued, depending on those who worked hard to achieve the first 3 places in the competition. Memories of participating in a competition for everyone is one thing. Succeeding in a contest is another. Must be clearly in a piece received by each young player. Winning or losing. The notions of winning or losing are not the same. There exists a big difference. If the young player's competition has good intentions, that each one of them does not feel embarrassed, they are sending a wrong signal, having the opposite effect to what they intended. The players will feel much more embarrassed when they receive something that not deserve. These contradictory signals cannot be part of the growth and maturation of young players, as they do not understand the differences between winning and losing. The simplisms. Intervening to balance the scales between teams provides absurd simplisms, offering a poor example to society. It is important to refocus the idea on preparing young players for adult life, enabling them to excel. Young players mistakenly think that everything is offered to them, with no effort required to achieve their goals. The organization. Institutions must defend merit, and develop strategies for competitions. balancing and shaping competitive frameworks so as not to reveal unjustifiable discrepancies in the final match result. The unpredictability of the result will have to be a constant in young players' mindset. One of the aspects that most influence the society is social networks. As in the analysis of previous aspects, there are four essential elements: the filters, the stress, the addiction, the authenticity. The filters. Young players grow up in the world of social networks, being competent in placing filters. They show that their life is incredible, although they may be depressed with low self-esteem. Everyone seems to be strong and understand everything, but the reality is that there is little resilience, with most young people not understanding what is happening to them. The stress. Being constantly connected to digital devices becomes increasingly more complex as young people grow up. Many of them fail to form deep, meaningful relationships. Having no mechanisms to deal with stress whenever it appears, they return to social media feeling temporary relief. The addiction. This addictive cycle creates conditions for young players to become resentful and arrogant, in other words, a pathological package. This strange dynamic of the existential system, between social judgment and human vulnerability, is the primary cause of suffering, individual failure, and the responsibility that no one probably knows how to adapt. The authenticity. Expressing what each person is will be stronger than what is forged based on what they are not. At the very least, the young player will have a solid place where their conscience rests instead of torturing themselves with the number of likes they receive. Each one must bear the burden of their responsibilities, not holding others responsible for their inabilities. Another aspect that influences the failure of young players is their impatience. In this context, four elements support it: the gratification, the experiences, the realization, the acceleration. The gratification. Impatience is developed by living in a world that generates a feeling of instant gratification from what we seek or accomplish. All want instant gratification. Except for the satisfaction in the training process, the pleasure of playing football and strengthening relationships. There is no digital application that achieves these objectives. The experiences. If the results of the games were unpredictable, young players would have the opportunity to discuss expectations, anxiety, and the levels of preparation required to beat the opponent. Not having such identity specificities, young players feel confused for not having learned and assimilated the social mechanisms of confrontation. The realization. Paradoxically, it is possible to see young players with enormous abilities sometimes give up quickly. The reason is that they do not feel like they are having a social impact, that is, instant gratification. They want to reach high performance rapidly without understanding what matters and how to be patient. Feel pleasure and fulfillment in what they do. The acceleration. It is always possible to speed up specific skills, but as a whole, it is arduous and lengthy, especially when he doesn't ask for help to assimilate this set of skills. It will be very easy for young players not to evolve in their goals. Being a dangerous opponent to the very essence when forming the team, which each player finds in the coach and colleagues, he misses the support to be more capable. The fifth element contributing to the failure of young players is the environment in which he is involved. In this context, there are four ruling elements: the causes, the balances, the interactions, the success. The causes. Human beings amplify their capabilities when involved in environments that inspire them to be capable. There are three aspects: the purpose or cause intended to be achieved, how it will reify, in other words, the processes and the product, that is, the sport's performance with a different value from other teams. The balances. It is crucial to building bonds of trust, capacity for cooperation, deal with a digital world, find more balance, overcome the need for instant gratification, and appreciate the joy, pleasure, impact and satisfaction that he gets from working hard on something, no matter how much time that cannot be carried out on short-term profits, but rather on long-term life. The interactions. Trust is born through the constant use of mechanisms that encourage large and small interactions. Turning on their cell phone in the locker room prevents players from talking to each other, preventing them from being interested in colleagues' problems. Creating environments is essential where everyone feels safe, expressing their strength and vulnerabilities. The success. The environment will prevent players from feeling alone and isolated. But also, some players never take that the squad's success belongs to them. Both success and failure will have to be shared by all colleagues. The performance achieved in each match is leveraged by everyone who played, those who were called up for the game and did not play and those who only participated in the training process. The last factor in the failure of young players is the technical, pedagogical and methodological quality of the coaches. Within the scope of these coaches' competencies, 4 elements deserve reflection. The specificity of the process. The methodologies applied. The limits of capabilities. The resilience to increase performance. The specificity of the process. By systemically repeating certain training methods, specific adaptations have a consequence on the neural and functional mechanisms of young players in a particular direction. Individual and collective attitudes and actions are ensuring, as well as creative deviations, which adapt to the circumstances emerging by training and competition. The methodologies applied. Teaching and training the football game is immensely complex. This fact leads different coaches to operationalize various methodologies. There are several ways to pursue the same objective. When the team fails to improve its performance levels, coaches do one of 2 things: they do more of the same or they do it less and less. But what is rarely observed is doing differently. The limits of capabilities. When coaches do not voluntarily expose young footballers to situations that they avoid and fear because they feel uncomfortable, they will never be able to deal with such situations. They are thus unable to know their limits, how to overcome them and achieve their goals. Resilience to increase performance. Facing the reality constituted by binomial training and competition, dialoguing with the unknown, players become stronger and more resilient. How many players realize that if they had been more committed and involved in environments that exposed them to daring to their limits, they would have achieved better performance levels? Finishing. UEFA imposes financial fair play on professional squads to establish a balance between them. The question arises, will there be some fair play when clubs with better conditions take over young players with some quality from other smaller clubs, making them weaken? As a result of this transition of young players from a club with fewer conditions to a more desired and well-known one, competing in major competitions, it is observed that the vast majority of these players will only complete 1 or 2 sports seasons. Being subsequently invited to leave the club, taking with them a residual value of competitive time, that is, they only helped other colleagues to evolve in training and competition. From an alleged success, the young players quickly go to failure,